Ryan sat alone in his small cabin on the outer station. The station floated quietly near the edge of human space, where trade ships came and went like drifting birds. His work was simple. He checked signals, cleaned panels, and recorded visitor lists. Most days were calm. Some days felt endless. He liked the silence, but sometimes the silence pressed too hard on his chest. He missed voices, laughter, and simple talks. Out here, most neighbors stayed behind closed doors. Each person had their own small world. Ryan's world was a square room with a bunk, a desk, and a narrow window looking at the stars. One evening, while reading an old book on his tablet, he heard a sound. It was not the usual click of pipes or the hum of the station. It was a knock, clear and sharp. He looked at the door. Visitors were rare. He waited, thinking maybe he had imagined it. Then the knock came again. He stood and walked to the door. He pressed the control pad. The door slid open. There she was. A tall figure with pale silver eyes, standing calm as if she had expected this moment. Her hair was dark and smooth, falling over her shoulders. Her clothes, a long travel dress of soft cloth, carried the dust of a long journey. She did not speak at once. She only looked at him, and her look felt heavy, almost like a question. Ryan cleared his throat. "Can I help you?" She stepped inside without waiting. Her steps were quiet, steady, sure. Ryan froze in surprise. She looked around the room as if measuring it. Then with one simple move, she unfastened her dress and let it fall in her hands. She folded it neatly, placed it on the chair, and turned her eyes back to him. Ryan blinked, his heart racing with confusion. He was not sure what this meant. But she stood there calm, not ashamed, not nervous. Instead, her face showed a kind of relief, as if she had set down a heavy weight. She said in a clear voice, "Move over." Ryan stepped back. His thoughts ran wild. Who was she? Why had she come here? Why had she left her dress aside? The action felt strange, but her calmness made it seem like more than it looked. It was not about clothes. It was about meaning. She walked to the bunk and sat down. She looked at the stars through the window. For a moment she stayed quiet, her hands resting on her lap. Then she spoke again, her voice softer. "I need a place to stay. Just for tonight." Ryan tried to find words. "You could have asked," he said. She turned to him with a small smile. "Your door was closed. Asking would have taken longer." Her answer confused him more, but also made him curious. He sat at the desk, still watching her. "Who are you?" he asked. "My name is Mira," she replied. "I came from far." Too far to explain in one breath. Ryan noticed the way she said it. Calm, certain, and with a kind of tiredness. She was not a simple traveler. He felt sure about that. Her dress, her eyes, her voice, everything about her spoke of a different place. A place with rules he did not know. Silence filled the room again. Ryan thought of asking more questions, but something held him back. Instead, he looked at the folded dress on the chair. The way she had placed it was careful, almost ceremonial. He realized it was not random. It was a sign. Mira seemed to read his thoughts. "In my world," she said, "to remove the outer dress in front of another means leaving behind the old path. It means choosing a new door. Today I chose yours." Ryan stared at her. He had no idea what to say. To her it seemed like a simple truth. To him it was a mystery. Why his door? Why his quiet room at the edge of space? "You do not need to be afraid," Mira said, her voice steady. "I will not harm you. I only ask for a little space and a little time." Her words carried no threat. Instead, they carried a weight of trust. She had crossed some boundary he did not understand, but she had done it with calm courage. Ryan leaned back in his chair. He let out a slow breath. "You can stay," he said at last. Her smile returned, faint but real. She shifted on the bunk, stretching her legs, as if she had finally found rest after a long road. Ryan looked out the window. Stars burned bright and silent. Something told him his quiet days were about to change. He had opened the door to more than a guest. He had opened the door to a story that would not end in one night. Ryan did not sleep that night. He sat at his desk with the tablet in front of him, though his eyes did not read the words on the screen. Every few moments he looked at Mira. She was quiet on the bunk, her hands folded in her lap, her silver eyes half closed as if she was listening to something far away. The room felt different with her inside it. Before, it had been small and empty. Now it felt like the air was charged with something new, something he could not name. Finally, Ryan spoke. "Why my door?" Mira opened her eyes and turned to him. Her gaze was calm. Because you are human, Ryan frowned. That cannot be the only reason. It is the most important reason, Mira said. She rested her hands on the blanket. Your kind is strange to us. You live with so little, and yet you make meaning out of small things. On my world, choices are bound by tradition. But humans choose in ways we cannot. I wanted that chance. Her words puzzled Ryan. He had never thought of humans as special. Most days he felt ordinary, just another worker on a lonely station. To Mira, though, being human seemed to mean something greater. He leaned forward. And the dress? What did it mean when you set it aside? Mira looked at the folded cloth on the chair. Her voice softened. It meant I ended the path they chose for me. I stepped into a new place. When I left my dress, I left my past. It is not a small thing, Ryan nodded slowly. He understood only a little, but he respected the weight in her tone. To her, this action had carried deep meaning. It was not about comfort. It was about freedom. The room fell quiet again. Outside the window, stars glowed like scattered fire. The hum of the station echoed through the walls. Ryan wondered what would happen next. After a while, Mira spoke once more. I should tell you the truth. Others will come. They will look for me. They will not understand why I chose this door. They will not forgive it. Ryan felt a chill. Who are they? My own people, she said simply. They believe I must follow the path they set. To step away is a kind of betrayal. They will want to return me. Ryan rubbed his hands together. He was no hero. He was a station worker, not a fighter. Yet her words stirred something inside him. The idea that she had trusted him, chosen him, gave him a strange strength. You could have gone to anyone, he said. Why risk so much for a human you do not know? Mira's eyes softened. Because I watched you before I knocked. You sat with your book in silence. No rush, no fear. You opened the door without suspicion. You are ordinary, but ordinary is what I need. Ordinary has courage of its own. Ryan let out a slow breath. He did not think of himself as brave. Still, her words warmed him. He stood and walked to the small food unit. He poured water into a cup and handed it to her. She accepted it with quiet thanks, holding it as if it were precious. She studied the cup with the same careful interest she had given to the lamp and chair earlier. You see wonder in simple things, Ryan said. And you do not, Mira replied. That is why you cannot see what makes your kind strong. For a moment they both smiled. The heaviness of the talk lifted a little. The night stretched on. Ryan told her about the station, about the trade ships and the quiet days. Mira listened, her eyes never leaving his face. Then she told him pieces of her world. Vast halls of silver stone, voices bound by ritual, families tied to ancient lines. Her life had been mapped before she was born. I wanted one choice to be mine, she said, even if it was small. That is why I came to your door. Ryan thought about that for a long time. He had always taken choice for granted. To Mira, it was a treasure worth crossing stars for. When the cabin finally grew still, Mira leaned back against the bunk wall. She looked calm now, her breathing even. Ryan returned to his desk, though he no longer tried to read. His mind was full of questions, but one thought stayed clear. She had chosen his door. Out of all the paths in the station, she had stepped into his. Just before dawn cycle began, Ryan heard a faint hum outside the walls. At first he thought it was the normal pulse of the engines. Then he realized it was sharper, higher, like the sound of a ship docking in secret. He rose and walked to the door, listening. Mira opened her eyes at once. She had heard it too. She stood and faced him, her silver gaze steady. They are here, she said. Ryan felt his chest tighten, but he did not step back. For the first time in years, his quiet room did not feel lonely. It felt like the start of something larger. The sound outside grew louder. It was not the normal hum of the station. It had rhythm like a pulse, steady and sharp. Ryan stood by the door, his hand resting on the control pad, but he did not open it. His heart beat fast and his thoughts raced. Mira moved closer. Her steps were calm, though her eyes showed alertness. She placed a hand on his arm. Do not open yet. Listen first, Ryan nodded. They stood in silence. The sound shifted, turning into faint footsteps along the outer corridor. Whoever had arrived was moving carefully as if they wanted to be unnoticed. Ryan whispered, It must be them. Mira's face grew serious. Yes, they waste no time. Ryan looked around his small cabin. There was nowhere to hide. A bunk, a desk, a chair, and a narrow window to the stars. He felt a knot form in his chest. "What do we do?" Mira's answer came with calm strength. "We wait. If they knock, I will speak. If they try to enter, I will stand. But you must not fear. Fear is the key they expect." Her words puzzled him. "What do you mean?" Mira explained quietly. "On my world, control is held through fear. We obey because we are taught to expect punishment. But you, Ryan, you open doors without such fear. That is what makes you different. That is why I chose you." Her voice was steady, and though he still felt nervous, her presence gave him courage. The footsteps passed. The sound faded down the hall. Ryan let out a breath he had been holding, but Mira shook her head. "Do not think they left. They only search. They will return." Ryan sat at the desk, pressing his hands together. "Why would they chase you this far? Why does your choice matter so much?" Mira lowered her gaze. "Because choice spreads. If I leave my path, others may see they can do the same. One spark can light many fires. They fear the spark." Ryan looked at her with new understanding. She was not only a traveler running away. She was a symbol, and her choice of his door carried weight beyond this small room. Silence hung between them until a soft chime broke it. The station console blinked with a message light. Ryan crossed the room and tapped the screen. The message was short, docking complete. Unlisted craft present. Report required. His throat went dry. The system had detected the ship. Soon the station authority would send patrols. They would ask questions, and questions could expose Mira. Mira watched him. "What will you tell them?" Ryan hesitated. He thought of his duty as a worker, his rules, his reports. Then he thought of Mira's folded dress on the chair, her calm eyes and her quiet trust. "I will tell them nothing unusual," he said. A small smile touched Mira's lips. "That is a choice." "Thank you." The console light faded after his reply. For now the secret was safe. Hours passed slowly. Ryan tried to return to his routine, but every sound in the hall made him tense. Mira remained calm. She studied his books, touched the lamp, examined every small object with quiet wonder. It was as if she found strength in these ordinary things. Finally, she asked, "Why do humans keep stories in books? You cannot live them, yet you hold them close." Ryan thought about it. Maybe because stories remind us we can be more than we are. Even if it is only words, they give us hope. Mira nodded. "That is why they fear humans. You turn small things into hope." Her words stayed in his mind. He had never thought of humanity that way, but hearing it from her gave it truth. Near the end of the day cycle, the footsteps returned. This time they stopped at his door. A sharp knock echoed in the small cabin. Ryan froze. Mira stood tall, her shoulders straight. She motioned for him to stay back. Then she stepped to the door. "Do not open," Ryan whispered. But Mira pressed the control pad. The door slid open. Two figures stood outside. They were tall, dressed in pale silver suits that shimmered under the corridor light. Their faces were calm, almost expressionless, their eyes the same pale shade as Mira's. One of them spoke, voice smooth and firm. "Mira, you must return." Mira did not step back. "I will not." The second figure's gaze shifted to Ryan. "Human, she is ours. You cannot keep her." Ryan's breath caught, but he held his ground. "She chose my door," he said quietly. "And that matters here." The first figure tilted their head as if surprised. Then both figures exchanged a look. Their silence lasted long, filled with tension. Finally, the first figure spoke again. "We will not take her tonight, but the choice is not finished. Remember this." They turned and walked away, their footsteps fading into the corridor. The door closed once more. Ryan felt his knees weaken, but Mira placed a steady hand on his arm. Her eyes shone with quiet pride. "You stood with me. That is enough for now." Ryan nodded, though his heart still pounded. He looked out the window at the endless stars. He knew this was only the beginning. Their visit had not ended the matter. It had only marked the start of something larger, something that might change both their worlds. Ryan woke to the soft hum of the station. The lights had shifted to day cycle, but his mind felt heavy from little sleep. The night replayed in his head, the knock at the door, the two silver-suited figures, their cold voices, and Mira's steady refusal to leave. He turned and saw her sitting at the small desk, reading from his tablet. Her silver eyes moved slowly over the screen. She looked calm, almost peaceful, as if the visit from her people had not shaken her at all. You are awake, she said without looking up. Rian rubbed his eyes. I am not sure I slept much. You did enough, Mira replied. Your body needed rest even if your mind was restless. Her words were gentle, almost comforting, but they did little to ease the knot in his chest. They will come back, he said. Yes, Mira agreed. But each time they wait, I remain free. Every moment is a choice. Every moment I am not in their hands, I win. Ryan studied her face. He wished he could share her calm, but the thought of those pale eyes watching him in the hall still made him uneasy. What happens if they try again? He asked. Then we stand again, Mira said simply. And if you do not wish to stand, I will stand alone. Her voice held no anger. She said it as if it were only truth. Ryan felt both humbled and challenged by her calm strength. He stood and moved toward the small food unit. He poured 2 cups of warm tea and handed one to her. She accepted it with a small nod. Your world must be very different, Ryan said. It is, Mira replied. There the path of a person is written long before birth. What you will learn, whom you will join, what duties you will carry. None of it is yours to decide. We are told it is for balance, for harmony, but harmony without choice is only silence. She sipped the tea and smiled faintly. Here, even a cup like this carries choice. You chose to make it. You chose to share it. That is freedom. Ryan looked at his own cup and thought about her words. He had never valued such small acts before. They were part of daily life, not something he questioned. Yet Mira spoke as if they were treasures. The console chimed again. Another message. Ryan walked over and read it quickly. It was from station control. Unknown craft still docked. Crew unresponsive. Patrol scheduled. They will send officers soon, Ryan said. Mira rose from the chair and walked to the window. She looked at the stars, her expression unreadable. Your people will see them. Then all will change. My choice will no longer be private. Ryan felt the weight of her words. If the station discovered her pursuers, questions would follow, and Mira's secret would not remain his alone. What if the officers side with them? He asked. Mira turned to him. Then you must decide what matters more, your rules or your heart. Her words struck deep. He had always lived by rules, simple and clear. But now the rules seemed too small for the weight of the moment. The hours passed slowly. Ryan tried to work at the console, but his focus drifted. Mira remained quiet, sometimes asking him about human life, sometimes studying the objects in the room. She held his old book at one point, turning the pages with careful hands. Stories are seeds, she said. Your kind scatters them freely. My people hide them. They fear what seeds may grow. Rian thought about that long after she set the book down. Late in the day cycle, the station shook gently. A docking clamp released, followed by the sound of engines firing. Ryan hurried to the console and checked the logs. The unlisted craft had left. They are gone, he said, relief rushing through him. Mira joined him at the screen. She read the data with narrowed eyes. No, they have only moved. They will wait near the edge of the system. They will watch. They do not give up. Rian's relief faded. So we are not safe. We are safe enough for now, Mira said. But time is short. They will not wait forever. That evening, as the lights dimmed, Ryan and Mira sat across from each other. Silence hung between them, but it was not the silence of strangers. It was the silence of 2 people holding the same weight. You could still leave, Ryan said at last. If they only want you, if I step aside, they might go. Mira shook her head. It is not only me. It is what I chose. If I return, they erase my choice. If I stay, the choice remains alive. Even if it is only in this small room, it matters. Her words carried a quiet power. Ryan realized she was not asking him to fight for her. She was asking him to understand. He looked at her for a long time. Then he said, Then I will stand with you. Mira's silver eyes shone softly in the dim light. That is all I needed to hear. Outside the window, the stars burned steady. The station hummed in its endless rhythm. But inside the small cabin, something had shifted. A promise had been made. Rian no longer felt like a lonely worker on the edge of space. He felt part of something larger, something fragile yet strong. He did not know how long their peace would last, but he knew his door would remain open. For Mira, for her choice, and for whatever future waited beyond the stars. The next morning, Ryan rose earlier than usual. His mind was restless, filled with thoughts of the unlisted craft and the promise he had made to Mira. The station looked the same as always, quiet and ordinary, yet he knew life inside his cabin was no longer the same. Mira stood by the window, watching the stars. Her silver eyes reflected the light, calm but alert, as if she could see beyond the station walls. She turned when Ryan moved. "You did not sleep much," she said. "I could not," Ryan admitted. "I kept thinking about what comes next." Mira nodded. "That is the weight of choice. It makes the future heavy, but it also makes it real." Ryan poured 2 cups of water from the unit and handed one to her. They drank in silence for a while. Then the console chimed with a message from station control. "Patrols confirm unknown craft left system border. Remain alert. Report any unusual contact." Ryan showed it to Mira. She studied the words and said, "They have not left. They hide. They will wait for a moment when you doubt yourself. That is when they will return." Her certainty unsettled Ryan. He had hoped the danger was gone, but now he realized it was only postponed. "What can we do?" he asked. "Live," Mira said simply. "Live as if we are free, even while they wait." That is the strongest defiance, Ryan considered her answer. It sounded simple, yet he knew it carried a deeper meaning. Later, he took her on a walk through the station. The halls were narrow, with dull lights and panels that hummed softly. Few people noticed them, and those who did gave only brief glances. To them, Mira looked like any traveler in simple clothes. Mira studied everything with quiet wonder. The curved walls, the vents that released air, the doors that opened with a soft hiss. To her, these ordinary details seemed like marvels. "Your world is filled with small freedoms," she said as they walked. "Even the way these doors open when you wish." "On my world, doors open only when allowed." Ryan listened carefully. He began to see the station through her eyes, not as a dull place, but as a place of quiet power. When they returned to his cabin, Mira sat on the bunk while Ryan worked at the console. He tried to catch up on reports, but his mind wandered. He wondered how long he could keep hiding her. Mira seemed to sense his thoughts. "You are worried about discovery," she said. "Yes," Ryan admitted. "If the officers learn the truth, they may hand you over." "Then you must decide again," Mira said. "Will you follow the rules or will you follow your choice?" Ryan turned to her. "Why me, Mira? Out of all the doors, why mine?" Her eyes softened. "Because when you opened the door, I saw no fear. I saw curiosity. Curiosity is stronger than fear. That is what makes your kind different." Her words touched something deep inside him. He had never thought of himself as brave, but she saw strength in his simple action. That evening, the station lights dimmed to night cycle. Ryan and Mira shared a quiet meal. She asked him about Earth, the world he had left long ago. He told her about green fields, wide oceans, and skies filled with clouds. Mira listened with bright eyes as if she were gathering each word like a treasure. "My world has no skies like that," she said softly. "We live under silver ceilings. The sun is filtered. We do not see the true stars. Perhaps that is why I love this view." She pointed to the narrow window. "Even here the stars are free." Ryan felt a quiet warmth. For the first time, he saw his homeworld through the eyes of someone who had never walked on it. He realized how much he had taken for granted. As the hours passed, Mira grew thoughtful. "They will come again," she said at last. "But you must not think of it as an end. Think of it as a test. Each time they appear, your choice becomes stronger." Ryan leaned back in his chair. "And what if I fail?" "Then you will learn," Mira replied calmly. "Choice is never wasted. Even failure teaches." Her words carried a kind of peace he could not explain. Near midnight cycle, Ryan heard a faint tap at the door. He froze, but Mira remained calm. She lifted her head and listened. The sound came again, light and quick, not like the heavy knock from before. Ryan whispered, "Do you think it is them?" Mira shook her head. "No, this is different." Ryan pressed the control pad. The door slid open to reveal a young worker from the station. The worker looked nervous, glancing left and right before stepping inside. "I should not be here," the worker said in a low voice. "But I saw the craft last night. And I saw the 2 who came to your door. You must be careful. They are still near. They watch." Ryan felt his chest tighten. He glanced at Mira, who remained steady, her silver eyes calm. "Thank you," Ryan said to the worker. "We will be careful." The worker nodded quickly and slipped back into the hall. The door closed again. Mira looked at Ryan. The circle widens. Others begin to see. This is how change starts. Ryan thought about her words long after the cabin grew quiet. He realized their secret was no longer just theirs. The station itself had begun to notice, and with that thought came both hope and danger. The morning light spilled into Ryan's cabin, painting the small room in soft gold. He woke slowly, feeling the weight of yesterday's events. Mira was already awake, standing by the window, watching the stars fade as the station rotated toward the nearby sun. "You did not sleep well," she observed, her voice calm. Ryan shook his head. "Not much. I keep thinking about yesterday and the warning from the worker." Mira turned to him. Her silver eyes were steady. "That means you are awake to what matters. Awareness is the first step to strength." Ryan nodded. He did not fully understand, but her confidence made him feel steady. For the first time, he realized that calmness could be stronger than fear. After a simple breakfast, Mira suggested a walk. They moved quietly through the station corridors, past sleeping rooms and dimmed control panels. Few people were active at this hour. The station felt larger now, almost alive. As they walked, Mira observed the walls and lights. "Your stations are simple, yet they allow so much freedom. My world's halls are ordered. Everything has rules. Even air and light follow instructions. Here, life feels alive." Ryan looked around in a new way. He noticed small details. The sound of the air vents, the smooth sliding of doors, the soft glow of panels. Mira's words made him see what he had overlooked for years. They reached a small observation deck. The window stretched wide, showing the stars in perfect clarity. Mira stepped forward, pressing her hands against the glass. "Look at this," she said softly. "On my world, the sky is filtered. We do not see stars like these. You are blessed to live under them." Ryan stood beside her, silent. He had never felt pride in his home, but looking at her wonder, he felt something shift. Humans were ordinary, yet their ordinary life allowed beauty others might never see. Mira turned her gaze to him. "And your choices are free. That is rare. Even small actions here carry meaning." Ryan swallowed. "Like opening my door to you?" "Yes," Mira said firmly. "That was your choice. Not forced, not expected, just yours. That is why I trust you." Ryan's chest warmed at her words. He had never considered himself important, but she saw value in him. That simple truth gave him courage. Their calm was interrupted by the hum of a distant engine. Ryan froze. Mira raised a hand. "They approach," she said. Ryan's stomach tightened. He had hoped the unlisted craft had gone farther away. Yet now it returned, moving carefully along the station's outer ring. Mira studied the data on her portable screen. "They watch," she said. "They measure, they wait. But they will not enter without risk. That is our advantage." Ryan looked at her. "How long do we have?" "Time is a gift, not a number," Mira replied. "We use it wisely and they cannot take it." Ryan felt the strange mix of fear and hope that had accompanied her since the first knock at his door. He realized the lesson Mira had brought was not just about danger. It was about the power of choice, courage, and trust. They returned to his cabin. Mira unfolded her dress carefully, placing it beside the chair. "It is good to prepare," she said. "Even in calm, readiness matters." Ryan worked at the console, checking station sensors, recording movements, and making sure no one could unexpectedly approach. Mira watched him, sometimes asking questions about human tools, sometimes observing patterns he had never noticed. Hours passed. The stars outside the window grew brighter as the station rotated again. Mira spoke softly. "Even when watched, even when threatened, living freely is stronger than fear. That is why I remain." Ryan looked at her, admiration growing in his heart. He realized that her courage was not the kind found in battle or fame. It was quiet, persistent, and steady. That was the kind of courage humans could understand and share. Evening came. The station lights dimmed, painting the cabin in a soft glow. They ate a small meal in silence. Ryan noticed that Mira's calm presence had settled into the room, like a soft weight of reassurance. Suddenly, a faint knock sounded at the door. Ryan held his breath. Mira looked at him, expression unreadable. "It is someone," she said. "We must decide how to respond." Ryan stepped forward slowly. "I will do nothing unless you tell me to," he said. Mira's silver eyes met his. "That is wise. Trust your choice. That is what makes you human. That is what protects us." The knock came again, soft but deliberate. Ryan glanced at Mira. She nodded once. He stepped back, letting her take the lead. Mira pressed the control pad. The door slid open. Two figures stood outside, but they were not the silver-suited pursuers. They were patrol officers, human and unarmed, scanning the corridor. Rian's hands shook slightly. Mira's calmness did not waver. "Good evening," she said politely. The officers exchanged glances. "We received reports of unusual activity," one said. "We are checking the area." Mira's voice remained gentle. "Everything is in order. No unusual activity here." The officers nodded and moved on. Mira closed the door. Rian exhaled slowly, feeling both relief and awe. "They will always check," she said. "But our choices hold power. Even small acts create safety when guided by courage and trust." Rian looked at her and smiled faintly. He realized that the lessons of the past days were becoming part of him. He had stood by choice, witnessed courage, and seen how small actions could matter. And with that thought, he knew tomorrow would bring new challenges, but also new hope. The day began quietly, but Rian felt a tension in the cabin that had not left him for days. Mira was already awake, standing near the window, her silver eyes scanning the stars. The unlisted craft might return at any moment. Yet her calmness filled the room with quiet strength. "You are ready," she said softly. Rian nodded, though he still felt the tightness in his chest. "I think so," he admitted. "I have never faced anything like this before." Mira stepped closer. "None of us know what comes next, but we face it together, and that matters more than anything else." Rian poured 2 cups of warm water and handed one to her. She accepted it with a faint nod, placing her hands around the cup as if drawing strength from its warmth. "Your world has small freedoms," she said. "We rarely see them. The ability to choose, to stand by those you trust even when the path is uncertain, is what makes humans remarkable." Rian felt a quiet pride. He had always thought of himself as ordinary, but her words reminded him that ordinary could be extraordinary when paired with courage and trust. Hours passed in careful preparation. Rian checked the station sensors, sealed minor openings, and made sure nothing unusual could enter unnoticed. Mira observed quietly, occasionally pointing out details he had missed. By evening cycle, the distant hum of the unlisted craft returned. Rian's chest tightened, but he did not panic. Mira's presence steadied him. "They approach," she said. Rian nodded. "I am ready." The cabin door slid open and the 2 silver-suited figures stepped inside. Their expressions were calm, but their eyes held quiet authority. "Mira," the first said, "you must return." "Your choices are not allowed." Mira stood tall. "I will not," she replied firmly. "I choose to stay. That is my path." Rian felt his heart beat faster. He had never spoken to such authority before, yet now he stood beside Mira, silently sharing her strength. The second figure glanced at Rian. "Human, step aside." "This does not concern you." Rian shook his head. "It does," he said quietly. "She chose my door, and I will not let her go against her choice." The 2 figures paused. Their calm expressions faltered for a moment. Mira looked at Rian and smiled faintly. "You see," she said, "even ordinary choices matter. You are human. You do not follow fear. That is why I trust you." The first figure bowed slightly. "Your courage is unexpected. It changes the path. We will leave this system for now, but know the choice you protect is dangerous." Mira nodded. "All choices are dangerous when they are worth having." The figures turned and left, their footsteps fading in the corridor. The cabin door slid closed, leaving Rian and Mira alone. Rian exhaled slowly. Relief and awe filled him. He realized that courage, trust, and choice had created a shield stronger than fear or rules. Mira placed her hand on his arm. "Every day you showed me what humans can do. Not by weapons, not by force, but by calm, steady decisions. That is why I came to your door." Rian felt warmth in his chest. He had only done what he could, yet it mattered more than he could have imagined. Night fell. The stars shone brightly, untroubled by the events of the day. Rian and Mira sat together, quietly watching the light travel across the station. "Do you regret coming here?" Rian asked. Mira shook her head. "Never. This cabin, this door, your trust, they are worth more than all the paths I left behind." Rian smiled. "I never thought one choice could mean so much." "It can," Mira said. "Every choice matters. Even the smallest decision shapes the future. Humans understand that better than most. That is why you are remarkable." Ryan felt a deep respect for her courage and a quiet pride in his own. Together they had faced uncertainty and danger, yet their calm choices had shaped the outcome. The next day, life in the station returned to its quiet rhythm. Ryan continued his work, checking panels, reading logs, and observing the stars. Mira remained by his side, learning about human ways, studying the simple freedoms of daily life and finding joy in small moments. Over time, Ryan realized that the extraordinary was not always in battles or adventures. Sometimes it was in trust, calm decisions, and the courage to stand by what is right. Mira often looked at him and smiled. "Your choices saved me today," she said softly. "But more than that, they remind me that even small worlds hold great strength." Ryan nodded. He understood now. Humans were ordinary in appearance, but their ability to choose, to trust, and to act with courage made them remarkable. Even at the edge of space, far from home, they could shape destiny through calm and steady actions. As the stars burned bright beyond the station window, Ryan felt a quiet confidence. The universe was vast and uncertain, but one human choice had changed the path of a life and perhaps many lives beyond. Mira placed her hand on his. "Thank you for opening your door," she said. Ryan smiled. "And thank you for trusting me." In that small cabin, far from Earth, among quiet stars and drifting ships, the story of courage, choice, and trust reached its first peaceful chapter. Together they had learned that even ordinary humans could do extraordinary things, simply by standing by their choices.